Alright guys, I had some comments and a specific question about how to set up your air pressure at your regulator, first and foremost at the wall, and then how to set it up at the gun. It's going to depend a lot on the material you're spraying, but the first thing I usually do is I'll get the regulator set at the wall, because I do run air tools off of a separate hose here when I'm doing body work. So I forget the gentleman's name or the YouTuber's name, but basically the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to set that regulator at the wall right here. I set it at somewhere between 40 and 60 pounds because I've got about 30 feet of air hose or 40 feet of air hose here. So you're going to lose a little pressure by the time you get to the gun. I've got the DeVilbiss Plus hooked up right here. Basically, I'll pull the trigger on my gun halfway to get air flowing, and I'll get this set at between 40 and 60. You see the needle drops when you pull the air. And the same thing you're going to need to do with the gun itself. And I'm going to try and do this without getting too crazy here. But you can see we're over pressure here. The DeVilbiss Plus needs to be in the blue range, and again, depending on what pressure you're going to spray at will dictate what pressure you set the gun at. So the way you set the gun is you pull the trigger halfway so that the air comes on, and then you turn this to where your desired pressure is while you're giving the gun air. Something like that. So when you pull the trigger, I usually spray this gun at the low 30s, even below 30 a lot of times if I'm spraying base coat through it. 27 seems to be a pretty nice pressure. So that's the way you do it. If you set your regulator at the wall way too high, if you leave it at like 120 or something like that, depending on where your air compressor cuts out at, basically what you're doing when you turn the air pressure down here is you're getting less air pressure, but you're speeding up the velocity of the air. And you really don't want to do that. If you keep this thing set too high, then and then try and just adjust it at the gun, you're really choking back on your air volume. So keep this set at a reasonable pressure, between 40 and 60 pounds. You can set it higher. Basically, if at any point when you're actually spraying with your gun and that pressure drops below where you've set it, you're in trouble if it drops too far. So I try and keep a happy medium between not having a ton of pressure at the wall and having enough pressure at the gun. So that's how I set that up. Really not any rocket science to it. And also, I'm going to set this gun down. I'll be back in a second here. I had another question about my plumbing and how I've got my airlines run and all that. Get you off the stand here and give you a little look about. But basically, here's my airline setup. Those are my drops of copper tubing. I'd like to have more of them, but I've got a ball valve in the bottom of every one of them that I can drain water out of as it condenses in that line. In a perfect world, I'd really like to have my regulator on the other side of my water trap, but this has actually got its own water trap in it too. So if you have just a straight regulator, I'd suggest you put it on the discharge air side of your water separator. And I've got this motor guard toilet paper type filter up there that's actually mounted higher, so the water actually, if anything gets past those two water filters, actually has to go uphill. I wish I didn't have it on a flexible piece of hose there, but it's all I had. I'd like to have it in copper or steel with a drip leg in it too. But That's probably overkill, but I have everything plumbed in 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch, I forget which. That's iron pipe, steel pipe, and it runs about 30 some feet along my ceiling, which isn't really optimal because the temperature gets pretty warm up there and it doesn't let the water condense as fast. But it goes through the wall to my air compressor here, and I basically just got, let's see if the camera will focus. I've got a nipple coming out of the tank with a ball valve on the back of it right here, so I can actually shut the air off, and that goes up through a flexible hose up to my pipe, up the wall and out. You want as much air line as you can get in steel to let that air cool off after it comes out of the compressor, because it's really hot, and that's why I've kind of got this set up. It's not perfect, but it does the trick. Another person asked me if after installing those pieces of copper in there, the kind of drip loop that I put in there, if that helped my water problem that I was having over the winter, and it had, because I did that last winter. The other problem you get, the air doesn't get cold enough in that pipe up at the ceiling. I just don't have any way to put it any lower is the problem, because it has to make it over my garage door due to where my air compressor is located behind that wall. The problem you get, that air is not cold enough by the time it hits the water separators, and what happens is it gets into the hose a little bit as water vapor, and that hose right there will be laying on this cold concrete floor. Even with the heat going, this floor doesn't get that warm. It gets about 40 or 50 degrees, and that's enough to condense out the water, and sometimes we'll still get a little bit of water trail out of that. It's just the nature of the beast. The water doesn't cause me any problems other than if it leaks out of the coupler and drips on something, which is what happened to me last year painting the hood of the Duramax. And since then, I've gone back to my old ways of putting a towel with some tape around that coupler, so if a little water vapor escapes out of it for whatever reason and condenses because it's cold there, it will actually pick it up and not drip on something. I've never had the moisture really screw up a finish, other than it makes the clear coat kick a little bit faster and not flow out as nicely. So you want to get as much air out as possible. So I hope that answered your questions as far as what you wanted to know, as far as getting your air regulated at the wall and at the gun and how to set that up. If you have any further questions, you can PM me. I haven't found a real easy way to reply back to some of these comments, although I'm getting better at the new Google Plus thing. For those of you who haven't checked out video, one of my subscribers, Blazer02LS, did a video. He doesn't show you how to do it, but he tells you how to do it. So it's basically an audio type clip, and he'll explain how to set up the Google Plus so you don't get all the garbage from it, and all you'll get is your comments, and you'll be able to reply to them. And I messed with that last night, and it seems to be working today, but I'm at work right now, so had to get the truck ready for snow plowing and all that, which is in the previous video, but kicking stuff all over the place. There's the O2 Super Duty with the Western Salt Spreader and the 8-foot Boss V plow with the wings on it, so she's ready to go. Supposed to get 3 to 5 inches of snow tonight, so we'll see. Doesn't look like it right now, but that may be the case. So again, hopefully that answered your comments, and if you guys need to know more about that Google Plus, it seems that that subscriber Blazer02LS or Blazer02LS seems to have figured it out, so go check out his video. It's also in my favorites, just so I wouldn't forget how to do it. And it seems like not with the Google Plus thing, you have to make your favorites public if you want people to be able to watch them. So again, I'll go do that for you guys, so if you need a link to the video, that's where it'll be. I'm not going to put it in the description or anything like that. So hope you guys are having a good one, and we'll catch you a little bit later.